Well, the Democratic Alliance in Gauteng is demanding answers from the ANC's provincial chair, David Makhura, about cadre deployment in the provincial government. Provincial Legislature member Jack Bloom yesterday, in fact, asking for the details of all deployments by the ANC to public service positions since January of 2010. He says there is compelling evidence that political appointments have undermined provincial departments as the best qualified people were not always appointed. Well, Jack Bloom joins us now via our video link this morning. Jack, a very good morning to you. I mean, the important question here is the kind of evidence, and I'm sure you would have used that evidence to back up this call for David Makhura to reveal those lists.
Well, we've seen it on a national level that in evidence before the Zondo Commission, the ANC's deployment committee has deployed people to the state-owned enterprises. We've seen what a disaster that's been in the case of Eskom, Transnet, Prasa, SABC. You can just go on and on. And my colleague in the National Parliament, Leon Schreiber, has asked President Cyril Ramaphosa in his capacity as President of the ANC for the records of all deployments by the ANC's National Deployment Committee. But I think it's been quite as destructive in Gauteng as well. If you can just see all the disasters in the Gauteng Health Department, for instance, I think there's been political deployments there that really have not worked out. But there's also a lot of provincial government agencies that are a failure. The Gauteng Gambling Board is now under investigation, as is the Gauteng Enterprise Propeller. This is an agency of the Gauteng provincial government that is supposed to assist small businesses. But from inception, it's been a disaster. And I think the root of the problem is that people are not appointed on merit. They're appointed because the ruling party puts them there for their own reasons.
I mean, it definitely seems like a good way of doing a check and balance on, if we take, for example, the gambling board. You've been appointed to this position. These were the key issues you were meant to deliver on, and you did not. Why?
Oh, absolutely, I agree. And the fact that so many state agencies, provincial level, national level, are absolute failures is because the wrong people have been appointed. They weren't appointed fairly. And the grounds for this Promotion of Access to Information Act is that it's unconstitutional. There's supposed to be a separation between party and state. You're not supposed to have one political party that goes behind the scenes and makes sure that its own people are deployed in various key positions. It's unfair to other applicants. According to the Public Service Act, nobody should be discriminated against because of their political orientation or any other factor. It really should be a merit-based appointment so they get the best people for the job. And the question of corruption comes into here, because we've seen time and time again how there's these very fishy tenders and contracts get awarded, and you have to wonder if certain people are appointed in certain positions so that they can influence contracts. So I think that the ANC in Gauteng has 30 days to respond in terms of the Promotion of Access to Information Act. And I hope they do, in the interest of transparency and the interest of the public interest. Since 2010, in the last 10 years, what deployments were political appointees, and what are the consequences of that, so the public can judge for themselves what effect this had on the provincial government.
Jack, just take us into, just as an explainer for us and for our viewers, political appointments are allowed in certain contexts, right? Give us a sense of in which context that is allowed.
Well, according to the ministerial handbook, there are a limited number of political appointments in the minister's office, or in the case of a province, an MEC's office, and also at local government level, the mayor's office. You are allowed to have a small number of appointments in your head office. Obviously, you are the party that has been voted into power, and you want your trusted people in your own office to implement the party's policies. But it stops there. It should not influence the appointment of a head of department, for instance, or a chief financial officer, or any position in the civil service. It's limited to what the ministerial handbook prescribes. and we agree with that. As a political party, you want to implement the policies that the voters have supported you to do, but the civil service should be sacrosanct. They need to be appointed on merit to do the job, and that's
I'm sure,
to benefit everybody.
Yeah, absolutely, Jack, and I'm sure that you, as the DA making this request under the Promotion of Access to Information Act, you're making the request, but you surely do have a list of political appointments that are already at the top of mind. You've already mentioned the Gauteng Enterprise Propeller and the Gambling Board in the province as well. What are some of the other names that you reckon should be on that list, should the Gauteng Premier and the President come forward with it?
Well, there's a host of other government agencies and government departments, which is very serious. I really think that the rot at the Gauteng Health Department is because of political appointments, and we've seen so many terrible tragedies there. I think the public have the right to know what political appointments there have been in the past, and more importantly at this stage, are any more political appointments envisaged. I think we want to stop this. I think we want to know that the provincial service, public service people are appointed objectively with merit as the overriding criterion, and that they do the job that they pay to do fairly. At the end of the day, we want our country to succeed, and in order for our country to succeed, we need to have civil service positions staffed with competent, ethical people so that we don't have corruption and services are delivered.
Yeah, absolutely. Any response as yet from David Makhura in his capacity as ANC provincial chair, and indeed from the President's office as well?
Well, at national level, the President has declined to provide that information. So the DA will have to consider whether we go to court to enforce that, and the ANC in Gauteng has 30 days to respond, and I hope to have a response to them, to my request within the 30 days.
Depending on how this unfolds, Jack, in Gauteng and nationally as well, what are the proposals or what steps does the DA think should follow? Once we have that list in hand, what should happen from then on?
Well, I think it leads to further inquiries. The Zondo Commission, I think, should be very interested. In fact, we have proposed that when President Cyril Ramaphosa appears before the Zondo Commission, he answers this question precisely. I think we've also proposed in Parliament a bill that would enforce the separation of party and state, in ensuring that all appointments in the public service are done according to objective measures and are not influenced by outside parties. So the DA has put some practical measures forward. We hope that our proposed bill in the National Parliament is considered on its merits, and for the good of our country, we need a functioning public service.
Absolutely. Jack Bloom, thanks very much for your time. He is the DA's Gauteng MPL. The Democratic Alliance in the province wanting the list of political appointments here in Gauteng and nationally as well. Very interesting to note that the President's office has already declined to make that list public, that list of political appointments to public service positions. The DA now recommending that once the President does appear before the state capture inquiry, that question is put to him. It's a big developing story, particularly given the levels of corruption we do have in the public service here in Gauteng and around the country as well.